Have you ever wondered where the idea of a coffee shop came from? That cozy spot where you grab your morning latte, meet friends, or get some work done? Well, the story of the first coffee house is far more dramatic and revolutionary than you might imagine. It's a tale of religion, politics, social change, and a brand new drink that took the world by storm. Today, we're traveling back in time to uncover the origins of this global institution. Our journey starts not in Europe, as many might think, but in the heart of the Ottoman Empire, in the city of Constantinople, which we now know as Istanbul. The year is 1475. While coffee had been cultivated and consumed in the Arabian Peninsula and North Africa for centuries, it was primarily used in religious ceremonies by Sufi mystics to stay awake for their nightly prayers. It was a spiritual tool, not a social beverage. But all that was about to change. In 1475, a man named Kiva Han made a bold move. He opened the world's very first coffee house right there in Constantinople. This wasn't just a place to sell a hot drink, it was a radical social experiment. Before Kiva Han's coffee house, public social life was largely confined to homes, mosques, and marketplaces. There were very few public spaces where men from different walks of life could simply gather to talk and relax. Kiva Han's establishment changed everything. Imagine stepping inside. The air is thick with the rich, aromatic scent of freshly brewed coffee. The room is buzzing with conversation. Unlike the taverns of the time, which were often seen as rowdy and disreputable, this coffeehouse was a place of sobriety and intellectual exchange. The drink itself, coffee, was a stimulant. It sharpened the mind, fueled conversation, and kept people alert. This was in stark contrast to alcohol, which dulled the senses. The coffee served was likely very different from what we drink today. It was probably made using the Turkish method, where finely ground beans are boiled in a pot called a sez, creating a strong, unfiltered brew. Sugar was a luxury, so it would have been a bitter, intense experience. But people weren't just coming for the taste. They were coming for the atmosphere. Kiva Han's coffee house quickly became the epicenter of Constantinople's social and intellectual life. Merchants, scholars, government officials, artisans, and poets all gathered under one roof. They discussed business, debated politics, shared news, recited poetry, and played games like chess and backgammon. It was a place where social barriers began to dissolve. A humble craftsman could find himself sitting next to a wealthy merchant, sharing ideas and opinions as equals. This was revolutionary. These coffeehouses became known as schools of the wise, or mektebi irfan. They were informal universities where knowledge was freely exchanged. Information that was once the exclusive property of the elite was now being discussed openly in public. News and gossip traveled faster than ever before, turning these coffeehouses into the information superhighways of their time. If you wanted to know what was happening in the city, the empire, or even distant lands, you went to the coffeehouse. Of course, not everyone was happy about this. The religious authorities were immediately suspicious. They argued that anything roasted to the point of being charred was forbidden, like charcoal. They also worried that these gathering places were distracting people from their religious duties at the mosque. The ruling class also grew nervous. When people gather and talk freely, they start to question authority. The coffeehouses became breeding grounds for political dissent and satire. The sultans and their advisors saw these schools of the wise as potential dens of sedition. Over the next century, the Ottoman authorities tried to shut down coffeehouses multiple times. Sultan Murad IV in the 17th century was particularly harsh, reportedly roaming the streets of Istanbul in disguise and ordering the execution of anyone he found drinking coffee outside their home, but these bans never lasted. The public's love for coffee and the social life that came with it was too strong. The government also realized that they could tax coffee and the coffeehouses, turning a perceived problem into a lucrative source of revenue. The model of the Ottoman coffeehouse soon began to spread. Travelers, merchants, and diplomats who had experienced the vibrant coffee culture of Constantinople took the idea back with them to Europe. The first coffeehouse in Europe opened in Venice in 1645, followed by Oxford in 1650 and London in 1652. Just like in Constantinople, these European coffeehouses became centers of commerce, politics, science, and literature. In London, they were called penny universities, because for the price of a cup of coffee, 1 penny, you could gain access to conversations with some of the greatest minds of the age. Institutions like the London Stock Exchange and the famous insurance market Lloyd's of London can trace their origins back to conversations that started in a coffeehouse. Think about that for a moment. The simple act of opening a public space to serve a new, stimulating beverage sparked a social and intellectual revolution that reshaped the world. It democratized information, fostered innovation, and provided a new kind of public square where ideas could flourish. It laid the groundwork for the Enlightenment and the modern public sphere. From that one shop in 1475 Constantinople, an entire global culture was born. Today, there are millions of coffee shops around the world, from big international chains to small independent cafes. They serve countless different styles of coffee to billions of people. But at their core, they still serve the same purpose as Kiva Han's original establishment, to be a place where people can come together, connect, and share ideas over a cup of coffee. So the next time you're sitting in your favorite café, take a moment to appreciate its incredible history. You participating in a tradition that's over 500 years old, a tradition that started with one brave entrepreneur in Istanbul who decided to sell not just a drink, but a space for conversation and community. The coffee house is more than just a business. It's one of the most important social institutions ever created. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the history of everyday things. And let me know in the comments what your favorite coffee shop is and what makes it special to you. See you in the next video.